Foundations of Change, an audiobook created by Hamitkan Fındık. Enjoy. Marcus Reyes stood at the edge of the construction site, staring at the skeletal frame of the new building, its sharp lines cutting against the morning sky like jagged teeth. The city hummed around him, cars, pedestrians, distant chatter. But in this moment, he felt disconnected, like he was looking at the world through a glass wall. His hands rested in his pockets, fingers tapping the fabric of his jacket, a subconscious rhythm of nerves and tension. He'd never been one to enjoy the noise, yet it was the foundation of his work. The constant cacophony of the city was his canvas, and today, his masterpiece was supposed to rise here. But Marcus had begun questioning whether this project was truly a masterpiece or a mistake. The development, a high-rise tower in the heart of downtown, was meant to be a triumph. It was supposed to showcase the future of sustainable urban design, an emblem of architectural brilliance and a testament to his career. Yet as he watched the steel frame take shape, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, something fundamental about the project that gnawed at him, quietly but persistently. He'd spent countless hours poring over plans, drafting renderings, arguing with contractors, all for this moment. And now that it was here, the weight of the decision, whether to continue pushing forward or step back, hung heavy in his chest.
Marcus.
Elena Rodriguez's voice broke through his reverie. She was standing beside him now, her sharp eyes scanning the same sight, but her gaze was different, calculated, analytical.
Don't tell me you're already having doubts,
she said, her tone light, but there was an edge to it, one Marcus knew well. Elena didn't waste time with indecision. She had been his mentor for the past 10 years, guiding him through the intricacies of sustainable design, teaching him the fine balance between practicality and idealism.
No,
Marcus answered, though his voice lacked conviction.
I'm just thinking.
Thinking's good,
Elena said with a slight nod.
but don't get lost in it. We've got deadlines to meet, and this project needs to launch. The city's counting on us.
Marcus nodded, his eyes still on the construction. It had been Elena who had pushed him to take the lead on this project, confident in his ability to make a name for himself, to cement his legacy in the field. But now, as the foundations of the building were set, he was beginning to realize how much he had staked on this project, and how easily it could all fall apart. The ethics of the development were starting to eat at him. There were concerns, too many high-end condos in an already gentrified area, displacement of local businesses that had been a part of the neighborhood for decades. And yet, those voices, the community's cries, were drowned out by the promise of wealth, of prestige, of progress. Progress. That word rang hollow in his ears.
What's really bothering you, Marcus?
Elena asked, her voice softer now, almost a whisper, as if sensing the deeper conflict brewing within him.
You've always been driven by purpose, by the desire to create something lasting. So, what's different this time?
Marcus turned his gaze back to her, the lines of doubt clouding his features. He had never been good at articulating his internal struggles, the churning thoughts that often left him sleepless at night. How could he explain to Elena, someone who was so firmly rooted in the world of high-stakes architecture, that this project, this tower, felt like a betrayal of everything he believed in?
I don't know if I can justify this anymore.
He said quietly.
The project's not just about design. It's about making a statement. But at what cost? I can't shake the feeling that we're building something that's going to hurt people, not help them.
Elena was silent for a long moment, her eyes studying him, measuring his words. Then she sighed and placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm but gentle.
Sometimes the cost of progress is hard to accept, Marcus.
She said, her voice low but resolute.
But this is the world we live in. We have to work with what we've got. You can't change the whole system overnight.
Marcus looked away, his eyes clouded with doubt. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was just being naive. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the price they were paying for success, his success, was too high. Marcus spent the rest of the afternoon in his office, staring at blueprints that felt more like a prison than a map to freedom. The dim light from his desk lamp cast long shadows across the walls, the lines of the buildings on the plans blurring as he leaned back in his chair. His mind drifted, searching for something, some clarity, some reason to keep pushing forward. He glanced at the clock. It was nearing 7 p.m., but there was no sign of stopping. He was used to this. Long hours, sleepless nights, the grind of ambition, all to climb higher. But tonight, the weight of it all seemed different. He wasn't just climbing anymore. He was digging himself into a hole, one layer at a time, and the deeper he went, the less he could see the light. His phone buzzed on the desk, interrupting his thoughts. It was a message from Sarah.
I'm coming by tomorrow. I need to talk.
Marcus's stomach twisted at the sight of his sister's name. It had been months since they'd last spoken, their strained relationship now a thin thread barely holding together. The last time they met, it was a heated argument about the environment. His work and her journalistic criticism clashing like oil and water. She didn't understand what he did, and he didn't understand why she couldn't see the value in it. They'd argued until neither of them could find words to say anymore, and she had walked out of his apartment, slamming the door behind her. Yet, now, she wanted to talk. A part of him felt an uncomfortable sense of guilt. Maybe, just maybe, she had a point. Or maybe she just wanted to tell him how wrong he was, again. The truth was, he wasn't sure if he could handle it. Not right now, not with everything else on his plate. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. It was late, and the office was empty, except for him, and the sound of the occasional traffic passing by outside. He could feel the weight of the city pressing down on him, the constant movement, the growth, the decay. Everything seemed to blur together, and he was stuck in the middle, unsure of which direction to go. Just as he was about to sink further into the mire of his thoughts, there was a knock on the door. He didn't need to look up to know who it was.
Come in.
Marcus called, his voice a little more strained than he intended. David Chen entered, his usual energy evident in the way he stood. A junior architect who had joined the firm just a few months ago, David had been eager, almost to the point of excess, to prove himself. His enthusiasm was contagious at first, but now Marcus found it grating. David didn't understand the weight of what they were doing, or maybe he simply didn't care.
Hey, Marcus.
David said, his hands stuffed in the pockets of his jacket.
Got a minute?
Of course.
Marcus replied, his tone less enthusiastic.
What's up?
David stepped forward, his eyes bright with something Marcus couldn't quite place.
I've been looking through some of the reports on the project, and I think we need to consider pushing the envelope a bit more, you know? I've got some ideas for the design that could really take things to the next level.
Marcus felt his brow furrow, but he forced himself to stay calm.
What kind of ideas?
David's eyes gleamed as he began talking about features that would push the building's design into bold new territory. Cutting-edge materials, new technologies, more glass, more light. He spoke with such enthusiasm that for a moment, Marcus almost believed in it too. But as David outlined the specifics, something tugged at the back of his mind. The words cost, luxury, and marketability kept echoing in the back of his thoughts.
I don't know, David,
Marcus said, trying to keep his tone measured.
These are great ideas, but they'll drive up the cost. We've already had enough pushback from the city about the price point of the condos. We need to keep the focus on sustainability.
David shrugged, as if the budget was a mere detail to be worked around.
Sustainability's great, but we also need to make sure we're positioning this as a luxury development. People want high-end, exclusive spaces, and that's what's going to sell.
Marcus clenched his jaw, a familiar frustration bubbling up. He'd heard this argument before, from clients, from developers, from Eleanor, but it always felt hollow to him, like a bait and switch. They marketed a vision of sustainability while building another monument to excess.
I think we need to rethink this,
Marcus said, his voice low.
Luxury and sustainability don't have to be at odds, but the focus needs to be on the environment, not just the bottom line.
David's expression shifted, just for a moment, a flicker of something between annoyance and disbelief. But then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced with his usual smile.
Sure, Marcus. Whatever you think.
The conversation ended with an awkward silence hanging between them. Marcus knew he wasn't going to win this battle. He could feel it. This was the beginning of something bigger, something that would stretch him to his limits. But the question that loomed over him remained unanswered. Was this the kind of project he wanted to be known for? As David left, Marcus stood up and walked to the window. He needed air. The weight of the world felt like it was pressing against him from all sides, and the city below, vibrant and alive, seemed indifferent to his internal struggle. He pulled open the window, and the cool breeze hit his face, clearing his thoughts, if only for a moment. But even as the wind brushed against his skin, he couldn't escape the feeling that everything, his work, his life, his relationships, was unraveling, one decision at a time. The city spread out beneath him like a sea of possibility, the lights blinking like stars on the verge of something new. Yet, in Marcus's chest, there was only a heavy silence, as if the city's hum had drowned out the part of him that once felt alive with the possibilities of design, of creation. It was a strange kind of alienation, a disconnect between his ambitions and the reality of his choices. He had spent his life building, shaping the world around him, but now it felt like he was standing on the edge of something he couldn't control. He glanced back at the plans spread across his desk, the paper littered with lines and ideas that no longer seemed to make sense. This wasn't just about creating a sustainable building anymore. It was about what he was willing to sacrifice for that creation. Was the cost, financial, moral, environmental, worth the result? The phone buzzed again, snapping him out of his thoughts. He didn't need to look at it to know who it was. It was Sarah again.
I'll be there at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Don't cancel.
Marcus set the phone down with a sigh. He didn't want to face her, didn't want to confront the jagged tension that had become the hallmark of their relationship. But she had a way of forcing him to deal with things he preferred to ignore. And deep down, part of him knew it was time. Time to face whatever had been left unsaid for too long. He didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, the images from the project played out in his mind. Towering structures of glass and steel, rising like monuments to his ambition, each floor an iteration of success. But then there was always the reminder at the periphery, the faint whisper of voices from the neighborhood, the people who would be displaced, the businesses that would be pushed out to make way for his dream. It was 8 a.m. when Marcus finally left his apartment and made his way to the office. The streets felt more alive than usual, the city already buzzing with the day's energy. He moved through the crowd, his pace deliberate but absent, his mind elsewhere. He needed something to anchor him, something to bring him back to the center of himself, but the harder he tried to focus, the more elusive it became. When he arrived at the office, Eleanor was already there, going over the final reports for the project. She looked up as he walked in, her expression unreadable.
Long night?
She asked, raising an eyebrow. Marcus nodded but didn't answer. He didn't have the energy for small talk. Instead, he walked over to the window, staring out at the city below.
I think we need to take a step back,
he said, his voice quieter than usual.
I'm not sure I can keep going with this.
Eleanor was silent for a long moment. She stood, walked over, and joined him at the window.
What are you saying?
She asked, her voice steady, but there was a tension in it, like she was bracing herself for something.
I'm saying I don't think this project is what I thought it was,
Marcus replied, his eyes narrowing as he watched the traffic below.
It's become something else, something I'm not sure I can justify anymore.
Eleanor's expression hardened slightly, but she didn't say anything right away. Instead, she turned back toward the desk, picking up a stack of papers.
If you want to back out, you're going to have a damn good reason. This isn't just about you anymore, Marcus. It's about the team, the people who are depending on you. You've worked too hard to get here.
I know,
he said, his voice tight.
But I don't want to build something that hurts people. I don't want to contribute to the problem, not when I can see the impact it's going to have.
Elena let out a breath, clearly frustrated, but not without understanding.
You're idealistic, Marcus, I get it. But there's a difference between idealism and reality. You've got a responsibility here, not just to your career, but to the people who are depending on you. You can't always be the hero.
Marcus turned to face her, a flicker of emotion crossing his face.
I don't want to be the hero. I just want to build something that matters. Something that doesn't destroy what we're trying to protect.
Eleanor's eyes softened for a moment, but she quickly masked it with a professional distance.
I'm not saying it's easy, but you need to figure out what matters most to you. If you're going to walk away from this, you better be damn sure it's the right thing to do.
Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed again, interrupting the conversation. He glanced at the screen, and for a moment, his stomach tightened. It was Sarah.
I'm here. See you soon.
With a quiet groan, Marcus rubbed his temples.
Looks like I've got to go. I'll talk to you later, Elena.
Elena nodded without a word, already turning her attention back to the reports. Marcus grabbed his coat and headed out, the weight of the conversation still pressing on his shoulders. He had a feeling that when he met Sarah, it wouldn't be just an ordinary conversation. It would be another turning point in the mess that was his life right now.